Hello, welcome everyone. I'm Lacy Wood and I'm the Dissemination Director with the REL Southwest, and we are really excited to have you join us today for our webinar on using text message initiatives for parent engagement. Please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat while we're getting started. As we get started, I'm going to first dive into some housekeeping items, and I'm going to move through this pretty quickly so we can get to the exciting content that we're going to bring you today. Okay, today for this webinar, we are using Zoom. Attendees are in listen-only mode, and the sound should be coming through your computer speakers. If you'd like to listen through your phone, you can find the dial-in information by clicking Audio Options at the bottom left corner of your Zoom control panel. Please direct all questions you have through the chat since you are in listen-only mode. In order for everyone to see the chat messages and participate in the discussion, please make sure that you address your chat messages in the to area so that they are sent to everyone and not just the hosts and panelists. Today, we do have automated captions available for this webinar. If you don't see the captions and you'd like to see them, you can unhide them by clicking on the up symbol next to the closed captioning live transcript button and then select show subtitles. As you might have heard at the beginning of the webinar, this webinar is being recorded and the recording will be shared with you and posted on the REL Southwest website. And we'll paste a notice about the recording in the chat now. Thank you. Okay, let's move into the content. So first, about the REL Southwest and how we do this work. The Regional Educational Laboratory Southwest, or REL Southwest, is a part of a network of 10 regional education labs funded by the U.S. Department of Education's Institute for Education Sciences, or IES. REL Southwest, we work with stakeholders across our region, and the work is focused on meaningfully improving student outcomes, and we do that work in partnership with education stakeholders in our 5-state region, which includes Arkansas, Louisiana, New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Texas. We do this work primarily through collaborative research partnerships with districts and state agencies and policymakers and others in our region. And you're going to get to hear about some of that work that we're doing today in Arkansas. Next slide, please. Okay, our goals today for the webinar are for you to learn about research on using text messaging to engage families and what we found to be most effective. We'll hear about research that's currently being conducted in Arkansas by the REL Southwest. And you'll hear about results from the Institute of Education Sciences study on text messages to improve student attendance. We'll have a brief pause after that for Q&A. And then after that, we are excited, we'll hear from Hadley Bachman from the Ohio Statewide Family Engagement Center, who will share their work on in middle schools and using text messaging. And then you will see, and then we will hear from Dunya, Minoo, and Kelli Mitchell, who will talk about their work and how their work with text messaging is going in the Portland, Oregon School District. And then we'll end the webinar with a longer Q&A session and discussion around all the great content that we've heard today. So please make sure you stay on and think about your questions you want to submit for the presenters. Next slide, please. Okay, just real quickly, our lineup again of our presenters today. We're going to have Dr. Candace Hester, who's from the Regional Educational Southwest, who's going to talk about the Southwest College and Career Readiness partnership with Arkansas and the work that they are currently doing around a text messaging study. We're going to hear from Dr. Anja Kurki, who's a managing researcher at AIR and has been doing this work for 20 years and looking at large research studies and doing studies funded by IES, other partners. After that, like I said, we're going to hear from Hadley Bachman from the Ohio Statewide Family Engagement Center. And then we're going to hear from Dunya Minoo and Kelli Mitchell from Portland Public Schools. So before we jump into, hi Kelli, hi Dunya. Before we jump into that, I just want to kind of provide some information and set the context for what we're going to hear about today. And so when we're talking about parent outreach via text messaging, we know that the benefits of parent and family engagement are well known, but we know that there has a strong impact on academics, student behavior, social emotional outcomes, attendance, which we're going to hear about today. But we're learning more and more about how schools and districts can increase parent and family engagement in their children's education by using text message initiatives. And these text message initiatives can be relatively low cost and pretty easy to implement once we're thinking about all the considerations that districts and schools need to put in place, which we will talk about today. But the research shows that text messaging is really a promising nudge strategy, and we know that the vast majority of the US population owns cell phones, and 77%, according to a survey in 2018, that own smartphones. So texting can be a really great avenue for providing that, that communication with parents. It has good reach, it can be flexible, it can be inexpensive, and it can work well with other family engagement strategies. When we look at research on messaging, we know that research from public health, economics, prevention science, and then more recently in education, like we're going to hear about today, shows how informational interventions that includes nudges or text messages can be delivered and can be used to effectively change human behavior. So we're going to learn a little bit about that today and how this informational messaging to parents has been found to affect outcomes, including parent knowledge and how they monitor their students' academic outcomes, on homework completion rates, and then the likelihood of students earning credits or joining credit recovery programs. So these are some of the areas where we've seen really research and results on these text messaging initiatives. We'll also learn about how integrating graphics or pictures into messages can really help personalize the intervention, and how sending these messages through a trusted source can broaden participant engagement. So that's some general information around the research and the context for text messaging to increase parent and family engagement. And with that, I'm going to get us started and turn it over to our presenters. I will now turn it over to Candace Hester, who's going to talk about nudge communications to parents through emails and text and our statewide outreach that we're conducting in Arkansas. Candace?
Thank you so much. Great to be here. I'm Candace Hester, Principal Researcher at AIR, and I also have the honor of being the research liaison to the Arkansas Partnership. And in that capacity, I am the principal investigator on a study to understand the opportunity that nudge notifications have for increasing parental engagement. Specifically, we launched a study to understand the impact of nudge communication mode, presentation, and sender on parental visits to a state literacy website in Arkansas. The website provides information on their reading initiative for student excellence, RISE, and that tests whether and what type, our study tests whether and what type of informational nudge is best for increasing parent engagement with the educational materials on the website. There are three main goals of the study. You can imagine that the goals have been growing in the era of COVID when we're so eager to engage parents. So we want to know, what are the best practices for engaging diverse parents? Arkansas is a majority rural state, and so understanding how to reach parents in a lot of different contexts and different day-to-day working environments can be helpful. We also want to know how to strengthen parent engagement through COVID. It's been an evolving last couple of years, and keeping parents engaged with best practices about how to support their students has been a priority for Arkansas. And we're also interested in understanding the most effective pathways for improving student literacy. Our study is focused on students in the elementary grades. There are 483 elementary public schools in Arkansas, serving about almost 200,000 K-6 enrolled students. The nudges, we decided in partnership with Arkansas and building from the evidence that was mentioned here just a bit ago, will focus on three different factors. The first is the mode. Arkansas already emails parents a lot, and we also know that there's an increased use of text message. So we're interested to understand what happens when you add a text to that email. Are more parents engaged? Are more diverse parents engaged? We're interested in understanding the use of pictures or graphics. We often hear that a picture is worth 1,000 words. But the question is, like a picture, also a graphic also takes a lot of investment in terms of time and money. Is that useful? And then finally, thinking about the sender. There's evidence that a trusted sender is more effective, but it also comes with an additional toll of making sure that each parent has a nimble, trusted sender that's associated with them. Is it worth it? So we went about testing these 3 factors. We're testing the presentation of including graphics. The 3 graphics on the screen are the ones that we used. Testing the use of adding the school principal as the sender to increasing the saliency of the information, and testing the use of adding a text message to the email. The research questions were many, but some selected ones are on the screen. What percentage of elementary school households were successfully contacted by ADD? Arkansas Department of Education. Did the percentages of households that approved Arkansas's request and that had accurate and functioning contact information vary by school locale or school demographic composition? What percentage of elementary school households received the emails or text messages? So not just were outreach to, but actually received them or had them delivered. Did the percentage of households that opened the email messages or received the text messages vary, again, by school locale or school demographic composition? Did the mode, presentation, or sender impact the average percentage of households that visited the RISE landing page and the time spent on the page? Did the fully enhanced nudge strategy, adding a text message, a graphic, and a known sender, improve the study outcomes compared with the baseline? We are deep in analysis, so I don't have, unfortunately, any findings to share with you, but they will be coming later this year, and you can find that information on the REL Southwest website, or IES's website that connects to REL Southwest. And also, we do have some useful information around findings from a study to share with you next.